I'm starting a new card for Rosh Hashanah that is apples and honey pot, and a bee. I forgot to do a video before I started the apples, but oh well. So anyway, they're almost done. They need a few touch-ups, and then I'm going to do the leaves next. Okay, I'm going to try and show you how I paint one of the leaves. I'm not sure if my angle of my camera is very good, but hopefully you'll get some idea. So I keep things fairly wet. I start out with some Naples yellow. I work in some serpentine green, which is a kind of apple green. And then I think probably I'll use a little olive green, maybe. Blend that in a little bit. And I'm going to do the inside, or the underside of the leaf. Start with Naples again a little bit. I don't want too much. Go back to the serpentine green. Let it flow in there. I should really be very careful not to get into the other side of the leaf, which I just did. But I'll work around it on this part. I think it'll probably be okay still. Leave the vein untouched. So I may want to keep it pale. Not sure yet. This time I'm going to use a little bit of darker green and undersea green in this part. I don't like my light the way it was. Let it flow together a little bit. Darken it up a little more. And then I think I will add a little burnt sienna on the tip. Once it's dry, I'll go back in and do some of the veins. I'll show you how I do one of the leaves. I do wet and wet, let it bleed together. I'm just going to draw in the veins a little bit, even though I probably don't need to do that, but it might show you a bit better what I'm doing. I start with some yellow, a Naples yellow, for the tips. And then I'm going to go use a paler green, an apple green. It's called Serpentine is the one I use. Oops. Gotta be careful not to get too much paint on my brush, or it gets too dark, too thick, too quickly. And then I'm going to go with, I think I'll use the undersea, the darker green. I'm going to skip the olive, I think, which is sort of an in-between. Although maybe not. Maybe I'll use a little olive too. Bit too much many colors going on. Needs a little blending, I think. A little darker on the side here, so it doesn't look quite so separate from the other side. And I think I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna. It's not going to show up against the apple, actually. Okay, now I'm going to dry that with my hairdryer. And I'll go back in for a little definition with the using some brown, Van Dyke brown, I think I'll use along the veins a bit. Actually, I'm not as pleased with these leaves as I am. The ones up above here are better. And the leaves themselves are done. I'm going to go back in with some brown, dark brown, for some of the veins, do a little more definition. Just a little bit. This is the inside of one of the leaves. Use some brown just to define it a bit better. Although I don't like that, actually. It stands out too much. Okay, I think we'll just do the twigs and the stems a bit in a kind of a light brown, and then I can do some definition. But I think I'll go in and do those before I before I do anything else, so that I have an idea of what it's looking like. Not too dark though. Oh, that's almost too dark. You can always darken it, almost always darken it, but you can't lighten it, not very easily. So, I might add a little bit of burnt sienna in here just for a little accent, a little bit of variety. I finished the apples and the leaves, and I'm now going to go to the honey pot and the honey dipper, and then the last thing will be the bee and the shadows. I've started in on the honey jar. I'm not so sure I'm that pleased with it. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I may end up, who knows, doing another on a piece of paper and gluing it over. We'll see. Anyway, I'll finish it up and see what it looks like when I'm all done with the dipper and everything. Okay, so I think I'm finished. I've got the bee on there. I think he looks pretty good in my shadows with a bit of, I add a little red next to the apple, a little quinacridone gold next to the honey because it's reflected. And I think he looks pretty good. And I'm actually thinking now about putting a bee in this one. I just might. We'll see. I want to think about that overnight, I guess. Okay, I did a little teeny bit more touch-up on the bee and a few white highlights on the honey pot and the apples. And I decided to add a bee to this one too. So there he is. So they're both done. And I'm actually quite pleased with both, I think. They'll both be for Rosh Hashanah, apples, honey. This one has dates.